Captain Talus felt his breathing sacs flutter with fear as he watched the sensor display. 3 ships were closing in on the gentle dawn, and they were not friendly. The vessels were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports that gleamed like hungry eyes in the starlight. "Phyrexians," whispered Shira, his medical officer. Her skin had turned pale blue, the color of deep terror among their kind. "What do we do?" Talus looked around the bridge at his crew of 12. They were scientists, explorers, poets. The Kalari people had never known war. Their homeworld of Kalis was a peaceful water planet, where the worst predator was a small creature that stung if you touched it by accident. They had reached the stars through cooperation and curiosity, not conquest. The gentle dawn shuddered as debris struck their shields. They had been studying an ancient battlefield, a graveyard of ships from some long-forgotten war. The twisted metal had damaged their engines when they tried to navigate through it. Now they were trapped, limping along at half speed, and the Phyrexians had found them. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Phyrexians. They were raiders and slavers who took the weak and sold them to the highest bidder. Their empire was built on suffering. The Galactic Council had tried to stop them many times, but the Phyrexians were too strong, too cruel, too willing to fight. "They are hailing us," said Mavo, the communications officer. His tentacles trembled as he worked the controls. "Put them through," Talus said, though his voice was barely steady. The view screen flickered to life. A Phyrexian commander stared at them with 4 cold eyes. His scales were dark red, almost black, and his mouth was filled with sharp teeth. When he spoke, his translator made his words sound like grinding metal. "Small ship, weak ship, you will surrender now. You will become property of the Phyrexian Empire. If you resist, we will break your ship and take you anyway. Choose." The transmission ended before Talus could respond. Not that he had any good response to give. The gentle dawn had no weapons. The very idea of putting weapons on a research vessel had seemed absurd when they built it. Why would scientists need guns? "Captain," said Pyrrha, his young navigation officer, "their weapons are charging. We have maybe 3 minutes before they fire." Talus made a decision. He turned to Mavo. "Send a distress call. All frequencies. All languages. Tell anyone who can hear us that we need help, that we are peaceful people under attack." "But Captain," Mavo said softly, "the nearest council world is 4 days away. No one can reach us in time." "I know," Talus replied, "but we have to try. We have to hope that someone out there will care enough to answer." Mavo's fingers danced across his console. A moment later, the distress signal went out into the void, traveling at the speed of light in all directions. It carried the gentle dawn's coordinates, their situation, and a simple plea for help. The crew gathered in the center of the bridge. Talus looked at each of them. Some were crying, their tears mixing with the moisture that always covered Kalari skin. Others stood in silent acceptance. They all knew what was coming. "I am sorry," Talus said to them. "I brought you here. I should have been more careful." "No, Captain," Shira said, placing her delicate hand on his arm. "You gave us the stars. You let us see wonders beyond our world. If this is where our journey ends, we saw more beauty than most of our people ever will." The Phyrexian ships moved closer. Talus could see their weapons glowing with building energy. He thought of his family back on Kelis, swimming in the warm waters of the southern sea. He would never see them again. The seconds ticked by. 2 minutes, then 1. The Phyrexians were taking their time, enjoying the fear they were causing. Talus closed his eyes and whispered a prayer to the old water spirits, asking them to guide his crew to whatever lay beyond. Then Mavo shouted, "Captain, something just appeared. A ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel right between us and the Phyrexians." Talus's eyes snapped open. On the view screen, he saw a vessel unlike any he had encountered before. It was smaller than the Phyrexian warships, but built with strange angles and heavy plating. Lights ran along its hull in patterns that seemed almost aggressive. The ship looked dangerous in a way that Talus could not quite explain. It looked like it was built by people who expected to fight. "Can you identify it?" Talus asked. Mavo worked frantically at his console. "The computer does not recognize the design, but they are broadcasting. They are speaking to the Phyrexians in their own language." "Put it on speakers," a voice came through, speaking the harsh Phyrexian tongue. But somehow, even in that brutal language, the voice carried a strange kind of confidence. When Mavo's translator converted it to Kalari, the message was simple and direct. "Leave. Now." The bridge went silent. Someone had just challenged 3 Phyrexian warships with 2 words. It was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, Possibly both. The Vrexian commander's response came quickly. Unknown vessel. This is not your concern. Withdraw or be destroyed with the others. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the new ship did something that made Talus's breath catch. It moved between the gentle dawn and the Vrexians, deliberately putting itself in the line of fire. It was shielding them. They are insane, breathed Pyra. Who would do this? The answer came in the form of weapons fire. The Vrexians opened up with everything they had, sending missiles and energy beams screaming toward the new vessel. The mysterious ship's defense systems came alive in a spectacular display. Small guns tracked and destroyed every missile with precision that seemed impossible. Energy shields flared and held against the beam weapons without even flickering. Then the stranger returned fire. Talus had never seen weapons like these. Solid projectiles shot from the ship at incredible speeds, moving so fast they seemed to bend space around them. When they hit the Vrexian shields, they did not bounce off or dissipate. They went straight through as if the shields were made of water. The first Vrexian ship died in seconds, its hull torn open by impacts that vented atmosphere and crew into space. The second ship tried to maneuver, but the mysterious vessel was faster, more nimble. Another volley of projectiles and the second Vrexian ship was crippled, spinning out of control. The third Vrexian commander was smarter than his companions. He turned his ship and ran, engines burning hot as he tried to escape. But the mysterious ship was faster still. It caught up in moments and fired a single shot across the Vrexian's bow. A new transmission came through. The voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. I will not ask again. Surrender or die. The Vrexian ship stopped running. A moment later, it powered down its weapons. The entire battle had lasted less than 4 minutes. Talus stared at the view screen, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. The Vrexians were feared across the galaxy. Their ships were powerful, their warriors fierce, and someone had just defeated 3 of them as easily as swatting insects. Captain, Mavo said, his voice shaking. They are hailing us. Talus swallowed hard. Put them through. A face appeared on the view screen. Talus felt his breathing sacs contract in instinctive fear. The being looked like something from a nightmare. Its eyes faced forward like a predator. Its skin was smooth and tan, stretched over powerful muscles. When it smiled, showing white teeth with sharp points at the corners, Talus nearly ordered his crew to abandon ship. But the being's voice was gentle when it spoke, translated into perfect Kalari. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Valor. We received your distress call. Are you hurt? Do you need assistance? Earth. Talus had never heard of such a place. His fingers trembled as he worked his console, pulling up what little information the galactic database had on this species called humans. What he saw made his blood run cold. Earth. Classification. Class 12. Deathworld. Gravity crushing. Atmosphere corrosive. Native life. Extremely dangerous. They had been saved by monsters from hell. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valor and studied the alien ship on his view screen. It was beautiful in an elegant way, all smooth curves and flowing lines. It looked like art, not like the military vessels he was used to seeing. These people were clearly not warriors. Status report, he said to his first officer. Lieutenant Amy Lynch checked her console. The alien vessel has significant damage to their engines and life support. Nothing critical yet, but they will need help soon. The Vrexian ships are secure. Our Marines have them under guard. Jake nodded. The brief fight had been almost too easy. The Vrexians had good ships, but their tactics were simple and their weapons were outdated. Human military technology, born from centuries of warfare on Earth, was simply better. It was both a blessing and a curse. Lisa, open a channel to the alien ship again, Jake said to his communications officer. Lisa Park worked her controls and nodded. Jake spoke slowly and clearly, letting the translator do its work. Gentle Dawn, this is Captain Morrison. We are prepared to send a team to help with repairs. With your permission, we would like to come aboard. There was a long pause. Jake could imagine the discussion happening on the other ship. They had just watched the Valor destroy 3 warships in minutes. They had to be terrified. Finally, the alien captain appeared on screen again. His face was hard to read, but his body language screamed fear. Captain Morrison, the alien said, We are grateful for your help. You may come aboard, but please understand we are not accustomed to warriors. We understand, Jake said gently. We will send only a small team. Our doctor, an engineer, and 2 security personnel. I will come personally. We mean you no harm. The alien captain seemed to relax slightly at that, though Jake noticed he kept his distance from the camera. Very well. We will open our docking port. 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the Valor's airlock with his team. Dr. Kate Sullivan carried her medical kit. Ben Carter had a bag full of engineering tools. Chris Mason and his partner, Lieutenant Kelly Brooks, wore light armor and carried sidearms, but Jake had ordered them to keep their weapons holstered unless absolutely necessary. Remember, Jake said to his team, these people are scared. We just showed up and destroyed 3 ships in front of them. They have probably never seen real combat before. So we move slowly, we speak softly, and we smile. But not too much. Apparently our teeth are frightening. Kate chuckled at that. A week ago, they had learned from a trading station that humans were considered predators by most galactic species. The merchant they had been trading with had actually backed away when Jake smiled. It had been an educational experience. The airlock opened and they stepped through into the alien ship. The gravity was immediately noticeable. It was much lighter than Earth standard, maybe a third of what they were used to. Jake had to concentrate to keep his movements smooth and controlled. One wrong step and he might jump and hit his head on the ceiling. The corridor was also built for much smaller beings. Jake was not a tall man by human standards, just under 6 feet. But here he had to duck slightly to avoid the door frames. The walls were decorated with flowing patterns that reminded him of water. Everything felt delicate and carefully made. A group of aliens waited for them at the end of the corridor. They were shorter than humans, maybe 4 feet tall on average, with smooth, bluish skin that glistened with moisture. They had large eyes, delicate hands with 4 fingers each, and they moved with a fluid grace that was almost hypnotic. They were also clearly terrified. Jake stopped several feet away and slowly raised his hand in what he hoped was a non-threatening gesture. Captain Tallis, I'm Jake Morrison. Thank you for allowing us to help. The alien in the center, presumably Tallis, took a small step forward. His breathing sounded rapid and shallow. Captain Morrison. Welcome to the Gentle Dawn. These are my senior officers. We are in your debt, Jake shook his head. No debt. Where we come from, there is an old rule. When someone calls for help, you answer. It is that simple. Tallis's large eyes blinked in what might have been surprise. That is very kind. We did not expect anyone to answer. Certainly not someone so... He trailed off, clearly unsure how to finish the sentence and so dangerous looking. Jake offered with a careful smile, keeping his teeth hidden. Yes, we have been learning that humans are a bit unusual compared to most species out here. You are from a Class 12 death world, one of the other aliens said quietly. It was the female who Tallis had called Shira. The database says that planets like yours produce the most dangerous life in the galaxy. Kate stepped forward slowly. That is technically true. Earth is a difficult planet, but it also made us very good at surviving and protecting others. I am Dr. Kate Sullivan. I would like to check your crew for injuries if that is acceptable. Shira looked at Tallis, who gave a small nod. I am the medical officer here. I will show you to our injured. But please, you must understand. We are very fragile compared to you. Our bodies are not built for strength. I understand, Kate said softly. I will be very gentle. I promise. As Kate and Shira left, Ben Carter moved forward with his tools. If you could show me to your engine room, I can take a look at the damage. I am pretty good with machines. A young alien who Tallis introduced as Pyrrha led Ben away, though the small creature kept looking back nervously at the large human following him. That left Jake with Tallis and several other crew members in the corridor. The silence stretched awkwardly. Finally, one of the aliens spoke up. His translator tag identified him as Mevo, the communications officer. Forgive me, Captain Morrison, but I must ask, how did you defeat the Vrexians so easily? They are known as powerful warriors, yet you destroyed them in minutes. Jake chose his words carefully. The Vrexians were brave, but their tactics were predictable and their technology was not as advanced as ours. Human ships are built to very high standards because we come from a dangerous place. We have had to be very good at fighting to survive. Have you fought many wars? Tallis asked quietly. Jake's expression darkened slightly. Too many. Humans have a long history of conflict. We fought each other for thousands of years before we finally learned to work together. We are not proud of it, but it did teach us how to build good weapons and strong ships. And now you use those weapons to help strangers? Talus seemed genuinely confused by this. Yes, Jake said simply. We decided that if we had to be good at violence, we should use it for something better than just hurting each other. When we reached the stars, we made a choice. We would be protectors, not conquerors. Talus was quiet for a long moment. That is very noble, but also very strange. Most species that are good at fighting become raiders or empire builders. You could take whatever you wanted from weaker species like mine. Why do you not? Jake met the alien captain's large eyes steadily. Because that is not who we want to be. Yes, humans can be violent. Yes, we come from a world that made us strong. But we also value kindness, honor, and helping those in need. Those qualities are just as human as our ability to fight. I think, Talus said slowly, that the galaxy does not know what to do with creatures like you. You are predators who choose not to hunt, warriors who choose to protect. It is very confusing. Jake laughed at that. A warm sound that made the aliens flinch slightly. I suppose it is. But here's what I want you to understand, Captain Talus. You sent out a distress call and we answered it. That is all that matters. We are not here to scare you or to take anything from you. We are here because you needed help and we were able to give it. Talus's skin shifted to a slightly warmer color, and his posture relaxed just a little. Then we are very fortunate that you were the ones who heard our call, Captain Morrison. Very fortunate indeed. Over the next several hours, the human team worked on the Gentle Dawn. Kate treated injured crew members with a gentleness that amazed them. Ben fixed their engines with skill and efficiency, and slowly, the Kalari crew began to relax around their terrifying rescuers. By the time the Valor team was ready to leave, something had changed. The fear was still there, but it was mixed now with respect and gratitude, and perhaps just maybe the beginning of friendship between two very different species. The repairs to the Gentle Dawn took 3 days. During that time, the Kalari crew and the human visitors spent many hours together, and with each conversation, the aliens learned more about the strange species that had saved them. On the second day, Shira found herself in the Valor's medical bay with Dr. Kate Sullivan. The human doctor had invited her to see how human medicine worked, and Shira's scientific curiosity had overcome her fear enough to accept. The medical bay was intimidating. The equipment looked heavy and brutal compared to the delicate tools Kalari healers used. There were devices for cutting, drilling, and stitching. Shira shuddered at the sight of them. I know it looks scary, Kate said, noticing her reaction, but you have to understand, humans are built to take a lot of damage. Our medicine reflects that. Damage? Shira asked. What kind of damage? Kate pulled up a holographic display showing a human skeleton. Well, our bones can break, but they heal themselves if set properly. We can lose up to 30% of our blood and survive with treatment. We can even survive having entire organs removed, like one of our kidneys or a large portion of our liver. Shira felt her breathing sacs constrict. That is horrifying. On my world, any of those injuries would mean death. Our bodies are too delicate to survive such trauma. I figured as much, Kate said gently. That is why I was so careful when treating your crew. What would be a minor injury to a human could kill one of your people. Your bones are lighter, your skin is thinner, and your organs are more exposed. You evolved in a much gentler environment than we did. Tell me about Earth, Shira said, settling into a chair that was far too large for her. What kind of world creates beings like you? Kate thought for a moment. Earth is beautiful but dangerous. Our gravity is strong, which is why we have thick bones and powerful muscles. Our atmosphere has a lot of oxygen, which gives us good endurance but also means fire spreads easily. We have predators that can kill us in seconds if we are not careful. Diseases that evolve to attack us constantly. Even our weather can be deadly. And yet you thrive there, Shira said softly. We do more than thrive, Kate said with pride in her voice. We spread to every part of our world. We live in frozen wastelands where the temperature drops far below freezing. We live in deserts where there is almost no water. We live on mountains so tall that the air is thin and hard to breathe. Humans are incredibly adaptable. Shira was quiet for a long time, processing this information. Finally, she asked the question that had been bothering her. Kate, if humans are so strong and so good at surviving, why are you so kind? Why do you not simply take what you want from weaker species? Kate's expression grew serious. Because strength without compassion is just cruelty. Yes, humans can be violent. Our history is full of wars and suffering. But we also have always had people who chose to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of attack. Those are the people we try to be now. Meanwhile, in the Gentle Dawn's common area, Ben Carter was showing Captain Talus and several other Kalari some videos from Earth. Talus had asked to see the human homeworld, and Ben had been happy to share. The first video showed a human city. Talus watched in amazement at the towering buildings and the crowds of humans moving through the streets. But what caught his attention was how casually they moved. They were walking around under full gravity, carrying heavy objects, climbing stairs, all without seeming tired or strained. This is New York City, Ben explained. About 8 million people live there. It is one of our larger cities, but not the biggest. 8 million, Talus whispered, all living under that crushing gravity. How do you not exhaust yourselves? Ben shrugged. We are used to it. We grow up in it from birth, so our bodies develop to handle it. To us, it feels normal. Actually, being on your ship feels weird to me. I keep accidentally jumping when I try to walk. The next video showed a beach. Humans were swimming in water, playing in the waves and lying in the sun. It looked peaceful, but Talus could see the danger. Those waves were huge and powerful. The sun looked bright and harsh, and the water stretched to the horizon with no safety barriers. That is an ocean, Ben said. We have 5 of them on Earth. They cover most of our planet's surface. And people swim in them? Talus asked in disbelief. For recreation? Sure, Ben said, smiling. I grew up near an ocean. I learned to swim when I was 5 years old. It is fun, but what about predators? Pyrrha asked, leaning forward. Surely your oceans have dangerous creatures. Oh, definitely, Ben said cheerfully. Sharks, jellyfish, some octopi that are venomous. You have to be careful and know what you are doing. But millions of people swim in the ocean every year without problems. The Kalari exchanged looks of pure horror. These humans took their children to places with venomous predators, for fun. The third video showed something even more shocking. A group of humans were climbing a mountain, pulling themselves up vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet. They were hundreds of feet above the ground with nothing to catch them if they fell. That is called rock climbing, Ben explained. Some people do it as a hobby. That particular mountain is called El Capitan, and it is about 3,000 feet tall. Why? Talus asked simply. Why would anyone do something so dangerous? Ben thought about it. Because it is challenging. Because it makes us feel alive. Because we like to test ourselves against nature and see what we are capable of. Not all humans do things like this, but many of us enjoy pushing our limits. Your species is insane, Mevo said, but there was a note of admiration in his voice. Maybe a little, Ben admitted with a laugh, but that is part of being human. We do not just survive, we explore. We challenge ourselves. We seek out new experiences. It is what brought us to the stars. Later that evening, the crews shared a meal together, though they had to eat separately because human food was toxic to Kalari and vice versa. But they could still talk, and the conversation flowed more easily now that the Kalari were less frightened. Danny Torres, the Valor's pilot, was telling stories about flying through asteroid fields and performing high-speed maneuvers. The Kalari listened in fascination and horror as he described loops, rolls, and dives that would have made them pass out from the forces involved. Human bodies can handle a lot of G-force, Danny explained. We black out eventually if it is too much, but we can take several times our normal gravity for short periods. It is useful in combat flying. Everything about you is built for combat, Talus observed. Your bodies, your technology, your culture. How do you ever have peace among yourselves? Jake, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. We work at it. Every single day we work at it. Peace does not come naturally to humans. We have to choose it over and over again. We have to remember that the person across from us is not an enemy, but another human deserving of respect and dignity. It is hard, and we fail sometimes, but we keep trying. And now you want to extend that peace to other species, Talus said. Yes, Jake said firmly. We know what we are. We know we are dangerous, but we also know we can be better. When we heard your distress call, we did not think about whether you could pay us or what we could gain. We just knew that someone needed help and we could give it. That is the kind of species we are trying to be. Shira spoke up from across the room. I have been thinking about something Kate told me. She said that strength without compassion is just cruelty. I think your people understand that in a way most species do not. You have the strength to be cruel, but you choose compassion instead. That makes you more than just warriors. It makes you guardians. Guardians, Jake repeated, testing the word. I like that. Yes, maybe that is what humanity can be for the galaxy. Not conquerors or raiders, but guardians, protectors of those who need protection. Talus looked at the humans gathered in his ship, these strange, powerful, terrifying, and kind beings from a death world. He thought about how easily they could have ignored the distress call, or worse, used it to attack the Gentle Dawn themselves. Instead, they had risked their lives for strangers. Captain Morrison, Talus said formally, when we return to civilized space, I will be making a full report to the Galactic Council about what happened here. I will tell them about the Vrexians, but more importantly, I will tell them about humanity, about the Deathworlders who came to save us. The galaxy needs to know that you exist. Jake nodded slowly. That is fine. We were going to have to introduce ourselves eventually. Better that we do it as friends and rescuers than as mysterious strangers. The galaxy is going to be very confused by you, Talus said, with what might have been a smile, and probably very frightened. But I will make sure they also know that you can be trusted, that when you make a promise, you keep it, that when someone calls for help, you answer. That is all we can ask for, Jake said. Understanding will come with time. For now, let us just focus on getting your ship repaired and getting you home safely. As the evening wore on and the two crews continued to share stories and learn about each other, something remarkable happened. The fear that had dominated the first meeting faded away, replaced by mutual respect and the beginnings of genuine friendship. The Kalari were still awed by the humans, still amazed by their strength and capabilities, but they know. 3 weeks after the rescue, Captain Talus stood before the Galactic Council on Vex Prime. The council chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from over 300 species. Today, every seat was filled. News of the incident with the Vrexians had spread quickly, and everyone wanted to hear about the mysterious humans. Talus felt small standing at the center of the chamber, but he kept his posture straight and his voice steady. He had promised Jake Morrison that he would tell the truth, and that was exactly what he would do. Honored council members, Talus began, I come before you today to report an incident that occurred in the outer reaches 3 weeks ago. My ship, the Gentle Dawn, was attacked by 3 Vrexian warships while conducting scientific research. We sent out a distress call, not expecting any response in time to save us. He paused and looked around at the assembled representatives. But someone did respond, a species we had never encountered before. They call themselves humans, and they come from a planet called Earth. The chamber erupted in whispers. Many of the council members were already pulling up data on their personal consoles, searching for information about this new species. Talus waited for the noise to die down before continuing. I will not waste your time with small details. The humans arrived in a single ship and defeated all 3 Vrexian vessels in less than 4 minutes. Then they offered us medical aid and engineering support. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped us because we needed help. A tall insectoid representative from the Rix hive stood up. Captain Talus, are you certain about the timeline? 4 minutes seems impossible against 3 Vrexian warships. I have provided the complete sensor logs to the council, Talus replied. You can verify everything I am saying. The human ship, the Valor, used weapons technology we have never seen before. Projectile weapons that moved at incredible speeds and penetrated shields as if they were not there. Their defensive systems were equally impressive. The Vrexians never had a chance. Another representative, a floating gas being from Nethys, spoke up. This is concerning. A species with such advanced weapons could be a threat to the entire galaxy. What do we know about their intentions? That is exactly why I am here, Talus said firmly. I spent 3 days with the human crew. I spoke with their captain, Jake Morrison, at length. I learned about their world and their history. And I can tell you with complete certainty that while they are dangerous, they are not a threat to peaceful species. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's classification. The numbers appeared in the air above him and the chamber went silent. Earth is a Class 12 death world, Talus said, the highest danger classification in our system. It has crushing gravity, a corrosive oxygen atmosphere, and life forms that are constantly trying to kill each other. Humans evolved in this environment. They are predators. They are strong, fast, and built to survive in conditions that would kill most of us in minutes. The floating gas being made a sound of distress. Then they are exactly the threat I feared. Deathworld species are always aggressive and expansionist. No, Talus said sharply. That is where you are wrong. Yes, humans are capable of great violence. Their history is full of wars and conflict, but they have also learned something that many species never do. They have learned to turn their strength toward protection instead of conquest. He played the video recordings from the battle. The council watched in stunned silence as the Valor tore through the Rexian ships. Then Talus showed them footage of the human crew helping with repairs. Dr. Kate Sullivan gently treating injured Kalari. Ben Carter teaching Pyrrha about human engineering. The contrast was striking. These beings could have taken anything they wanted from us, Talus continued. We were helpless. Our ship was damaged, our crew was terrified. But they did not take, they gave. They risked their own lives to save strangers, and when the danger was over, they stayed to help us repair our ship. They asked for no payment, no favors, no territory. They helped us because it was the right thing to do. A small reptilian representative from Corvus Prime spoke up. But surely they want something. No species acts purely from kindness. What are their demands? They have made no demands, Talus said. Captain Morrison told me about an old Earth custom. On their world, when someone is in danger on the ocean, you always help them. Always, no questions asked, no payment expected. It is called maritime law, and humans have extended it to space. When they hear a distress call, they answer. That is simply who they are. The chamber filled with arguing voices. Some representatives were scared of the humans and wanted them contained or monitored. Others were curious and wanted to establish contact. A few were already thinking about how human military technology might be useful against common enemies like the Vrexians. The council leader, a wise old being from the eldest race, raised his hand for silence. Captain Talus, what is your personal recommendation regarding humanity? Talus took a deep breath. This was the moment that mattered. Honored leader, I recommend that the council extend an invitation to humanity to join the galactic community. Yes, they are strong. Yes, they are dangerous. But I believe that strength is exactly what the galaxy needs. Not for conquest, but for protection. He gestured to the empty seats in the chamber, seats that had once belonged to species that were extinct or enslaved. How many civilizations have we lost to raiders like the Vrexians? How many distress calls have gone unanswered because no one was close enough or strong enough to help? The humans can be that help. They can be the force that protects the weak from the predators. But what if they become the predators? Someone shouted from the audience. Then we will deal with that if it happens, Talus said. But I do not believe it will. I looked into Captain Morrison's eyes when he told me why they helped us. He was sincere. Humans have made a choice about what kind of species they want to be. They want to be guardians, not conquerors. I believe we should give them the chance to prove it. The debate continued for hours. Talus answered questions, showed more footage, and shared every detail of his interaction with the humans. Some council members remained skeptical, but slowly opinion began to shift. Finally, the council leader called for a vote. All in favor of extending an invitation to humanity to send a representative to the Galactic Council? The vote was not unanimous, but it was clear. By a margin of 2-1, the council agreed to invite humanity to join the galactic community. Far away on Earth, Admiral Patricia Grant received the transmission in her office at Space Command. She read the invitation 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. Then she smiled and reached for her communication device. Get me Captain Morrison, she said. He is about to become very famous. On the Valor, Jake was finishing his duty shift when the call came through. He listened to the Admiral's explanation of the Council's invitation and felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. They want us to send an ambassador, Admiral Grant said. Someone who can represent humanity to the entire galaxy. The politicians are already fighting over who it should be. But I wanted you to know first. Your actions out there, Jake, they changed everything. You showed the galaxy what humanity can be at its best. I just answered a distress call, Jake said quietly. You did more than that, the Admiral replied. You gave the galaxy hope that maybe, just maybe, there is someone out there who will stand up for the weak. That matters, Jake. It matters more than you know. After the call ended, Jake stood alone on the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the gentle dawn was traveling safely home. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was debating humanity's place in the universe. And somewhere out there, other ships were probably sending out distress calls hoping someone would hear them. Jake made a silent promise to himself and to the galaxy. As long as he had a ship and a crew, those calls would be answered. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to be strong enough to protect instead of conquer. The Valor's engines hummed to life as they prepared to jump to their next destination. Whatever came next, whatever challenges humanity faced in the galactic community, Jake knew one thing for certain. They would face it the same way they had faced every challenge in their history, together with courage, with compassion, and with an unshakable commitment to doing what was right, no matter the cost. 6 months had passed since the Gentle Dawn incident, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what to make of humanity. Ambassador Karen White stood in her office on Vex Prime, looking out at the alien city below. The building that housed the Earth Embassy was new, built specifically to accommodate humans with their heavy gravity requirements and oxygen atmosphere. It stood out among the elegant, delicate structures of the other embassies, built like a fortress among gardens. She thought it was a fitting metaphor for humanity itself. Her assistant, Lieutenant Marcus Cole, entered with a datapad. Ambassador, you have another 3 requests for assistance. A mining colony under attack by pirates, a medical emergency on Tellus 4, and a request for security training from the Vorlian government. Karen took the datapad and reviewed the requests. This had become routine over the past months. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy about the humans who answered distress calls. Now everyone wanted human help. Approve the medical emergency, she said. Get Dr. Sullivan's team on it immediately. For the mining colony, contact Captain Morrison and see if the Valor is available. And for the Vorlian request, set up a meeting. We will need to discuss what kind of training they need. Marcus nodded and left. Karen returned to looking out the window. It was strange how quickly everything had changed. 6 months ago, no one in the galaxy had heard of Earth. Now, humanity was becoming known as the species you called when you needed protection. Not everyone was happy about it. The door chimed and Karen called out permission to enter. Council Representative Zexton entered, his insectoid body clicking as he moved. He was one of the council members who had voted against inviting humanity to join the galactic community. Ambassador White, he said formally, we need to discuss the growing presence of human military forces in council space. Please sit, Karen said, gesturing to a chair that had been specially made for his species. What concerns you? You have ships patrolling trade routes now, Zexton said. Human soldiers training local defense forces. Human doctors in hospitals across a dozen worlds. You are spreading through the galaxy very quickly. Some of us worry about your intentions. Karen met his multifaceted eyes steadily. Our intention is to help. Nothing more, nothing less. We have made that clear from the beginning. But you must want something in return, Zexton insisted. No species acts purely from altruism. What is Earth's real goal? To not be alone in the universe, Karen said simply. Representative, humans spent thousands of years alone on our planet, fighting among ourselves, dying in wars that accomplished nothing. When we reached the stars, we decided we wanted something different. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves, and we wanted to use our strength for good instead of for destruction. Pretty words, Zexton said, but strength corrupts. Eventually, you will use your power for your own benefit. Maybe, Karen admitted, surprising him. We are not perfect. We have made mistakes and we will make more, but we are trying to be better than we were. And so far, I think we are succeeding. She pulled up a holographic display showing reports from across the galaxy. This is a Kalari colony that was being raided by slavers. A human patrol ship intervened and drove the slavers away. This is a hospital on Nethys Prime where human doctors introduce new techniques for treating trauma injuries. This is a trade route that has been pirate-free for 3 months because human ships patrol it. Yes, we are spreading through the galaxy, but we are spreading help, not conquest. Zexton studied the reports for a long time. Finally, he spoke more softly. I am old, Ambassador. I have seen many species rise to power. Most of them became tyrants. I hope you prove to be different. So do we, Karen said honestly. After Zexton left, Karen received a call from Earth. It was Admiral Grant with an update on the fleet expansion. Humanity was building more ships, training more crews, and preparing to take on more responsibilities in the galaxy. The politicians are calling it the Guardian Initiative, Admiral Grant said. 50 new ships over the next 5 years, all dedicated to peacekeeping and emergency response. We are also setting up training programs for other species who want to improve their own defenses. That is a big commitment, Karen observed. It is, the Admiral agreed. But the requests keep coming. Every day another species reaches out asking for help. We cannot ignore that. But I wanted to ask you, Karen, are we doing the right thing? Are we helping or are we interfering? Karen thought about the question carefully. I think we are doing what humans do best. We see a problem and we try to fix it. Is that interference? Maybe. But I would rather interfere to help than stand aside and do nothing. Across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison was learning the same lesson. The Valor had just finished escorting a refugee convoy to safety, protecting them from raiders who preyed on the desperate and displaced. As the grateful refugees departed to start their new lives, Jake found himself talking with his crew about the weight of responsibility they now carried. Every time we help someone, 10 more ask for help, Lieutenant Amy Lynch said. We cannot save everyone, Captain. No, we cannot, Jake agreed. But we can save some, and that has to be enough. Dr. Kate Sullivan joined them on the bridge. She looked tired but satisfied. The last of the refugees are settled. 3 of them had injuries I have never seen before, diseases that do not exist on Earth. But we managed to treat them. Human medicine is adaptable like that. Because we had to adapt to survive on Earth, Jake said. Everything about us, all our strengths, they came from living on a world that was trying to kill us every day. Now we get to use those strengths to help others survive. There is something beautiful about that. There is also something exhausting about it, Ben Carter said from the engineering station. The ship needs maintenance, Captain, and the crew needs rest. We have been running missions non-stop for 4 months. Jake nodded. You are right. Set course for Vex Prime. We will take a week of shore leave, get the ship properly serviced, and let everyone relax. As the Valor jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jake thought about everything that had changed since they answered that first distress call. The Kalari had called for help, not knowing what would answer, and humanity had responded, not knowing it would change their place in the galaxy forever. On the gentle dawn, Captain Tallis was conducting another research mission, this time with an escort. A human patrol ship traveled with them, not because the Kalari needed protection at the moment, but because humanity had made it clear that those who called for help once would always have someone watching over them. Tallis had become something of a celebrity among peaceful species. He was the captain who had been saved by humans, the one who had convinced the Galactic Council to give humanity a chance. Young Kalari asked him about the Deathworlders, and he always told them the same thing. Yes, humans are dangerous, he would say. Yes, they come from a terrible world that made them strong and fierce. But they are also the kindest beings I have ever met. They use their strength to protect, not to hurt. They answer distress calls from strangers. They risk their lives for people they have never met. That is what makes them special. Not their strength, but their choice to use it for good. In the council chambers, debates about humanity continued. Some representatives still feared them, worried about what might happen when humans became even more powerful. Others had come to rely on them, calling for human help whenever there was trouble. But slowly, gradually, understanding grew. The galaxy began to see that the Deathworlders were not monsters or conquerors. They were simply people from a difficult world who had learned to be strong, and who had decided to use that strength to make the universe a little bit safer for everyone. Ships across the galaxy began to carry human translators and human technology. Defense forces trained with human instructors. Doctors learned human medical techniques. And most importantly, species that had once been victims prey for the raiders and slavers of the galaxy began to feel safe because they knew that if they sent out a distress call, someone would answer, someone strong enough to fight back, someone brave enough to help. The humans would answer. Ambassador Karen White stood at a ceremony on Vex Prime, watching as the Galactic Council officially recognized Earth as a full member species. It had taken 6 months of hard work, countless rescue missions, and endless diplomacy. But finally, humanity had earned its place among the stars. As the Earth flag was raised alongside the banners of 300 other species, Karen felt a sense of pride and purpose. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians. They had proven that strength and kindness could coexist, that predators could choose to protect instead of hunt. The galaxy had sent out a distress call, though it had not known it at the time. A call for someone strong enough to stand against the darkness, brave enough to fight for the weak, and kind enough to do it without asking for anything in return. And the Deathworlders had answered. They would always answer.